we spoke about, I want to say it was about a year ago. It was you and Sebastian. We spoke
Yeah,
about Leopard
leopard
Skin
skin.
and
Yeah,
such a great show. And I was talking to Mike online about all of these series. Like every time a new series comes out, I'm talking to him online and
yeah.
I get so excited just because they're such great shows and the cast are great. And, congratulations to you on the nomination for this one. So well deserved.
Thank you so much.
I have to ask, do you even look at the script when Mike comes to you, or do you just say, I'm in?
I said, I mean, the latter. I then looked at the script, and then we actually have really real creative conversations. And the amazing thing is that I have such huge respect for his writing, and we've come to be able to collaborate in a way that's so exciting because I can then offer an idea, and then he will make it something that even is better than that idea, and then we'll come back around, and there ends up being something that is built together. But yeah, no, it was about a year before on this one, for example, and he said, I'm going to do The Fall of the House of Usher, a Poe-inspired series, and I would really like you to play the Raven if you're interested. And he couldn't finish his sentence before I said yes. So yeah.
Did he present it as the Raven, or did he present it that, well, it's the Raven, but it's really Verna and this is who she is? How did he present
At,
it?
at that point, it was just the Raven. That's my
Okay,
point. That's all I heard, and I said yes.
that's
uh,
awesome.
so yeah, no. In fact, it was actually the first script when he finished the first script and then sent it that I saw her name, and I thought, that's such a nifty little trick.
And there's so many of those. What I really loved about it, because he did it with the Midnight Club, that it's
Yeah.
this kind of greatest hits, but it's done. Poe has really not been done this way before, and it's such a cool twist on it. And Verna kind of, there's so many versions of her through this story. Did you find that it was Verna like with different masks, so to speak, or how did you figure out how to approach her interactions with all these various members of the family?
Yeah. No, it was a really interesting challenge because it isn't seven characters, it's different incarnations of the same character, right? So that was
Right.
also already, how do we find that? I sort of ended up calling it the golden thread that connects them because it really did feel key. And in certain scenes, you see Verna come through, sometimes subtly, sometimes not subtly. But sort of in every one of them, you can kind of clock her when she's sort of coming through, and so definitely when we were initially talking about it, it was really key that because she is hiding in plain sight
Hmm.
and because she is a larger than life character, that she couldn't be played larger than life. That there's obviously very extreme things that happen, like incarnating a primate, and things like that I couldn't hold back at all. They had to be really, you know, all the way. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't trust the filmmakers so implicitly. Um, but um, but yeah, it just became really about the nuances of, none of the accents were written into the scripts originally, so it was about finding how we could have these differentiations without them being like, and now she's this and then she's this, but actually have it sort of feel like when you meet those people, if you just met them, you would believe them as a person. And so that they felt like they had to exist. I had to work on each one of those backstory, where their centers of gravity were, their voices, different dialects, and kind of figuring out where, based on the writing, what felt like the most organic dialect for each, and then presenting that to Mike and then seeing how he felt and moving. So it was a real process to building each of them as if they were their own character in their own movie, and while maintaining this sort of inner, the raven perched on the branch, basically.
Right.
It's always there.
Something I read in an interview that you did where you talked about the deliberate choices you've made in your career to choose these roles and work with these different filmmakers. And you've had such a phenomenal range of talent that you've worked with as writers and directors, some of them multiple times. Sebastian is one, Zack Snyder's another, Robert Rodriguez, all these
Yeah.
different filmmakers. What is it that's unique about working on a Mike Flanigan project compared to other filmmakers you've worked with?
Mm. Well, I guess, you know, all of those people that you mentioned are so specific because of they all have really specific and really strong visions.
Hmm.
And so Mike is so unique because his vision is so unique. So it's hard to even compare any of them to each other. But what I would say is that he, It's interesting. When I had an unusual childhood and a wild sort of childhood, and I therefore was like a very kind of controlling kid, very good in school, and and even when I decided to act at a very young age, I was going to do that with gusto and very serious, and so I'm a good student in that way. And I think that I like to have a strong hand in a director, but with like with Mike, I sort of feel like it's like this gentle perfectionism. And there's this kind of, he came from editing, so he's really precise in terms of, he and Michael Famignari, everything is laid out. Um, and yet within that, he allows you all the freedom you want to explore. And so I think that container that he provides is something that our it's going to sound so hokey to say our instruments, but the way we are, it complements each other in that way. And so the fact that I know that he has it all, he knows he has what he wants to do so clear. It allows, but he's not controlling at all. So that's such an unusual combination, and yet a combination I find with confident filmmakers. I think generally when you find controlling filmmakers, it's because they're insecure. And so with him, it's just a really natural fit, that I appreciate. And also, he is such a horror aficionado, and I am not. So for me, I wasn't attracted to doing any of these projects for the genre per se. I was just attracted to the way that this filmmaker can talk about the big things of, redemption, empathy, self-examination, life, death, human interplay, trauma, all of these things that he deals with, these themes that are really interesting to me within this extremely entertaining genre. So that's such a, yeah, he is very, very unique that way.
And I've got to ask, it's probably nothing at this point, but he's working on The Dark Tower, which is another Stephen King property. It's a big thing and one of my favorite books of all time. And as soon as I heard it, I started thinking of all the actors he works with. I'm like, oh, Carla could play this, Carla could play that. Has he talked to you at all about The Dark Tower, but maybe in the future collaborating on it?
That's about the amount of conversation we've had about it, because I think it needs to be officially all guns blazing. But I he has talked about sort of what that world is, but I don't know any specifics other than it would be so fun to go and play with him doing that for sure.
And I've got to ask, just saw the trailer for Lisa Frankenstein. This is
Yeah.
going to be such a fun movie. Uh, this like a new filmmaker. So Zelda Williams making her
Yeah.
directorial debut in a feature sense. What was it like working with her on this project? Because it looks bonkers crazy fun.
It's totally bonkers crazy, and that was so much fun because of that. Sorry, the Earth is quaking. Thankfully not. I am in LA, so that I shouldn't make that joke. But yeah, I mean Diablo Cody, I'm a huge fan of, and for sure, she has such a like she's got that this movie just sits in such a sweet spot of the 80s that I think if you actually lived in the 80s, you'll recognize so many things and homages, which are really fun. Music, everything. I mean, the hair,
Yeah.
but also, if you didn't, I think the 80s has been so fetishized now that there's also this sort of like real familiarity with the sort of the someone feeling like a geek inside, and there's this for me also made me think of Weird Science, and
Mm.
made me it's a real flip on that. And then there's some Edward Scissorhands, Tim Burton element in there. But Zelda, I think coming from, obviously such a brilliant creative family, um, and she has such a strong head on her shoulders, and she didn't feel like a new filmmaker at all, which is really interesting. She felt like a very assured filmmaker and had a really strong sense of what she wanted to do. I'll be interested to see what she does after this with different things, because again, much like I don't think this is her. Um, I don't think this is such a specific thing that she had such a clear vision for it, that I'll be curious what the next thing she chooses is. But it was so much fun on set. Catherine Newton and Cole are just fantastic in it. I mean, it's really, it was for me, I just rarely get offered these kind of roles that are just flat out comedy. Like very little subtlety in Janet, my character. She really is the stepmom who, but heartbreaking and hilarious, I hope. I mean, that was how I felt about her when I read it. So it was a blast. And I definitely think if people are looking to have like a really fun, twisted Valentine's Day, there is no better movie than this. I mean, it's bananas.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. And last question for you. You've been in so many movies that I just have on my list as favorite movies over the years, all different
Oh,
genres, just huge fan. If you could go back and revisit any of those characters in like a sequel or just kind of some sort of a follow-up, is there any particular character you've played that you'd love to see where they are now?
wow. And do you want me to do movie specific or movies or shows?
Either one.
Okay. Well, Jet.
Love
Jet is
Jet.
a character that I would love to dig back into. I feel that she was just torn from me way too fast. So you never know. So that would be the top of my list. And it's funny. There are. I've had a lot of. I felt that way about Karen Cisco for a long time.
Mhm.
I really love her and I love Elmore Leonard so much. And Karen and Jet are totally different people, but in terms of that sort of genre is quite, that's the great crime, delicious dialogue. But I would say it's interesting. There's probably several characters that I could say that about that I love playing so much that if I got the opportunity to again, I think that now that actually happens, do you know what I mean? That things get resurrected. I think at the times when I've done them, I've just never thought of that as an actual possibility. But yeah, it definitely. And more recently, Gunpowder Milkshake would be a really
Great.
fun
Love
one
it.
to revisit.
Yes.
I feel like the librarians just got introduced. We just started cooking.
Well, they did bring back Justified, and
I know.
that's always a possibility. We could see Karen Cisco
Exactly,
pop up.
exactly.
Well,
Yes, indeed, you are right.
that would be awesome. Carla, thanks again for your time. I really love it. Congratulations again on the show. It's
Thank
phenomenal. Always
you.
a pleasure to talk to you.
It's always so wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much. Have a
Thanks
great
again.
day.